Tonight, we begin a gentle journey, not to escape the difficulties of life, but to meet them in a new and softer way. We turn toward the quiet wisdom of Zen, a path that has guided countless hearts toward peace, not through control, but through harmony with what is. In this space, you are invited to feel the ease that arises when you no longer struggle against the movement of existence. We will walk together through quiet reflections and timeless stories that speak not to the restless mind searching for answers, but to the deeper awareness that already knows how to be still. Here, resistance is seen not as strength, but as an unnecessary burden. And challenges are no longer enemies to overcome, but subtle teachers offering the gift of release. Welcome to Silent Monk. This is your sanctuary, a place where you can gently set down the weight of effort and expectation. There is nothing here you must achieve, nothing you need to fix, no ideal version of yourself you must become. Simply allow these words to drift toward the places within you that are ready to stop struggling. Our journey begins with a quiet realization that may feel unfamiliar to the mind trained by effort. Much of our suffering is not created by life itself, but by the way we resist the way life unfolds. This resistance is subtle, woven into the fabric of our days so deeply that we hardly notice it. The tension when events do not follow our plans. The silent argument with reality. The constant effort to reshape the world to match our preferences. This is not a flaw, nor a sign of weakness. It is simply what happens when we forget our true nature, when we believe ourselves to be separate from life rather than expressions of it. Tonight, we look gently at this habit, not with judgment, but with understanding so clear that resistance begins to soften on its own, like frost dissolving under the warmth of morning light. In Zen, there is a teaching about water. Water does not fight the stones in its path. It does not argue with the mountain that blocks its way. It flows quietly, finding openings where none seem to exist, shaping even the hardest rock through patience rather than force. Water reminds us that softness can overcome hardness. You are like water. Your original nature is fluid, adaptable, calm. Yet along the way, you may have learned to become rigid, frozen by fear and expectation. Tonight, we explore how to return to your natural state, not by breaking the ice with effort, but by allowing awareness to bring warmth to what was never meant to be solid. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we resist what is. Zen goes further, revealing that the one who resists and the thing resisted are not separate. When the struggle ends, something becomes clear. You are not fighting life. You are life, moving freely, without opposition. Are you ready to lay down the weapons you have carried against your own experience? Are you willing to discover what remains when the conflict dissolves? Let us begin the return to the quiet flow of your being. A student once asked a Zen master, "What is the path?" The master answered, "The ordinary mind is the path." The student asked again, "Should I try to move toward it?" "If you try," the master replied, "you move away." Confused, the student asked, "Then how can I know it?" The master smiled and said, "The path is not found through knowing or not knowing. Knowing creates illusion. Not knowing creates emptiness. Beyond both, the path is vast and boundless." This dialogue reveals the first layer of resistance, the mind's urge to grasp, direct, and control experience. Even in spiritual seeking, we resist by turning awakening into a goal rather than a recognition. Now, without judgment, notice where resistance lives in your body. perhaps in the jaw, holding words that were never spoken, perhaps in the shoulders, carrying burdens that feel unavoidable, perhaps in the stomach, tightening around decisions left unresolved. The body speaks honestly. It reveals where the mind has learned to fight. Resistance is not only physical. Watch how the mind responds when something feels uncomfortable. How quickly it says, "This shouldn't be happening," or "I can't handle this," or "If only things were different." Each thought is a quiet act of conflict with reality. A Zen teacher once said that many people live in a house of anxiety, constantly repairing its walls and reinforcing its doors. Yet the house itself is the problem. The walls of resistance built for protection become the prison that confines us. What if you simply stepped outside? What if you discovered that there was never any danger at all? In the silence between your thoughts, feel the open space that holds both comfort and discomfort without preference. This space does not resist anything. It allows all experiences to arise and fade, like clouds passing through an endless sky. You are the space. Somewhere along the way, you forgot and began to identify with the clouds instead. Resistance often disguises itself as safety. The mind whispers that without struggle, you will be harmed, lost, or overwhelmed. But this misunderstanding is the root of suffering. True safety comes not from resistance, but from flexibility. The tree that bends in the storm survives. The rigid tree breaks. There is a story of a monk meditating by a river when a scorpion fell into the water. Without hesitation, he reached out to save it, and the scorpion stung him. He withdrew his hand, then reached again. Again he was stung. A passerby cried out, "Why do you keep trying to save it? It will only hurt you." The monk replied softly, "It is the nature of the scorpion to sting. It is my nature to save. Why should I abandon my nature because it does not abandon its own?" The monk did not resist the scorpion, nor himself. He did not fight what could not be changed. He acted from his true nature without requiring the world to be different. This is life without resistance, not passivity, but authenticity flowing from acceptance. Feel your breath now. It does not resist coming or going. It moves naturally without effort. Your heart beats without conflict. Your blood flows without debate. Your body already knows how to live without struggle. Resistance exists only in the thinking mind that has forgotten its origin. We resist aging and suffer with every year. We resist opinions and suffer in disagreement. We resist emotions and suffer twice, once from the feeling and again from the fight against it. We resist change, uncertainty, and transition. Yet resistance never prevents what it opposes. Time moves on. Feelings arise. Change continues. Resistance only adds pain to what might otherwise be a natural movement of life. Master Dogen taught that awakening is not something to attain, but what remains when illusion falls away. The illusion is separation, the belief that we must defend ourselves from life. But in truth, we are life itself. What would remain if you stopped resisting your experience right now? If you did not push away discomfort, grasp for something better, or try to solve everything? In that quiet openness, a gentle peace appears, not dependent on circumstances, but born from non-struggle. This is why Zen speaks of simply sitting, not to achieve, not to escape thoughts, not to become enlightened, just sitting, allowing. In this simplicity, you rediscover what was always present: wholeness, clarity, freedom. As you rest more deeply, notice how resistance often appears as commentary in the mind. I should be calmer by now. This isn't working. My mind is too busy. Even these thoughts can be allowed. They are whether passing through awareness. You do not need to fight them. You can simply observe them with the same gentleness you offer to distant sounds or falling rain. Zen speaks of no mind. Not the absence of thought, but freedom from being possessed by thought. In no mind, thoughts rise and fade like reflections on still water. The water does not resist the reflections. It reflects them, then returns to stillness. You are this water. The disturbance appears only when you forget this truth and believe yourself to be the reflection. There is another story. A student complained that his meditation was filled with chaotic thoughts. The master asked him to bring a glass of muddy water from a pond. When the student returned, the master said, "Make the water clear." The student tried stirring it, filtering it, forcing it. Nothing worked. Finally, exhausted, he set the glass down and waited. Slowly, the mud settled. The water became clear. The master said, "Your mind is the same. Stop stirring it, and clarity will return on its own." This is the essence of non-resistance. Feel your body settling now. Notice how releasing the need to fix this moment reveals its quiet completeness. Peace is not elsewhere. It is here, uncovered when resistance fades. Zen calls this the gateless gate. There is nowhere to go because you are already here. Nothing to achieve because you already are. Resistance was the only barrier, and it was never real, only a habit of mind. As you rest in this understanding, see resistance not as an enemy, but as a misguided attempt to find safety. True safety is not in control, but in recognizing yourself as the space where all experience can appear and disappear. You are the sky, not the weather. You are the ocean, not the waves. When this is seen, the struggle ends, not in defeat, but in remembrance. There was never anyone to fight. There was never anything to fight against. There is only this breath, this moment, this quiet unfolding of life. And you are not separate from it. Rest now in this flowing presence. Let resistance soften like ice in sunlight. You do not need to make it happen. Awareness does the work naturally. What was never meant to be hard begins to soften. What was never meant to be frozen begins to melt. As resistance dissolves, something becomes clear. Acceptance is not something you practice. It is what you are. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within." Zen reveals that peace appears when resistance disappears. Like the moon emerging when clouds drift away, your true nature becomes visible when struggle fades. Feel your breath again. Each exhale, a letting go. Each inhale, a quiet receiving. Nothing fights. Nothing resists. This is the rhythm of acceptance. There is a story of two monks crossing a river. One carried a woman across the water, then set her down. Hours later, the younger monk complained, unable to let go of what had happened. The elder monk smiled and said, "I left her at the river long ago. Why are you still carrying her? Your mind may be carrying the past in the same way, moments that did not unfold as planned. Tonight, you are invited to set them down. Not because they were unimportant, but because carrying them is no longer necessary. And as you release them gently, without effort, you may feel something rare and quiet, the peace that was always here, waiting beneath the struggle. She reached her destination long ago. So why do you still remain beside that river in your mind? As your body sinks more deeply into rest, you may begin to feel what acceptance truly means, not as an idea, but as a living sensation in your muscles, your breath, your nervous system. There is a subtle release that happens when you stop preparing for a battle that no longer exists. Your shoulders soften. Your jaw loosens its quiet grip. Your heartbeat slows, no longer racing to escape what cannot be outrun. This easing of the body is not separate from spiritual understanding. It is the same truth felt in different ways. When the Buddha spoke of suffering and its end, he was not describing distant philosophy. He was pointing to the real experience of tension and ease, of grasping and letting go, of resistance and acceptance that unfolds in your body in this very moment. Yet acceptance often feels difficult because the mind misunderstands it. The mind believes acceptance means surrendering power, approving of everything, or becoming passive before life. But Zen teaches something quieter and deeper. To accept does not mean to stop moving. It means to move without inner conflict. Imagine a river meeting stones along its path. The water does not argue with the stones. It does not try to destroy them all at once. It does not stop flowing. It simply moves around them, gently, patiently. And over time, without force, the stones are shaped by its presence. In the same way, you can learn to move around the difficulties in your life. The emotions you did not choose, the people you do not understand, the circumstances you did not invite. Acceptance gives you flexibility. It allows you to continue without breaking yourself. This is especially important as you approach sleep. When you fight your thoughts, your worries, your restlessness, they grow stronger. But when you allow them to exist without engagement, they slowly lose their urgency. There is an old Zen story of a student who complained that he could not stop thinking during meditation. "No matter what I do," he said, "my thoughts keep returning." The master asked him, "Try not to think of a white elephant." Instantly, the student saw the white elephant everywhere in his mind. The master smiled. "The harder you try to push a thought away," he said, "the more power you give it. But when you allow a thought to appear without fear, it comes and goes naturally, like a guest who leaves when no longer needed." This teaching holds a quiet key to peaceful sleep. When you lie down at night and thoughts arise, memories of today, worries about tomorrow, endless inner commentary, your instinct may be to push them away. Yet this pushing creates the tension that keeps you awake. Instead, you can meet your thoughts gently. Notice them without judgment. Acknowledge them without struggle. Then, slowly, return your attention to your breath, to the weight of your body, to the stillness beneath movement. In this openness, thoughts begin to loosen their grip and fade on their own. A Zen teacher once said that the unwise reject what they experience, while the wise examine the thoughts that interpret experience. When sadness, fear, anger, or loneliness appear, we often try to erase the feeling itself. But the feeling is not the problem. The real suffering comes from our resistance to it, from the stories we tell ourselves about what it means. Imagine lying in bed as anxiety arises about tomorrow. The anxiety is simply energy in motion, a quickened pulse, a tight chest, a restless mind. Like a wave, it has a natural rise and fall. But when you say, "I shouldn't feel this, this is unbearable, I'll never fall asleep like this," you add fuel to the wave. What might have lasted a few moments can last for hours. Acceptance changes everything. When anxiety appears, you can meet it with curiosity instead of resistance. Anxiety is here, you might gently notice. This is how it feels in this moment. You are not inviting it to stay forever. You are simply refusing to fight reality. The Buddha once compared the mind to a restless monkey leaping from branch to branch. Zen teaches that the monkey is not the problem. Trying to cage the monkey creates suffering. Acceptance means letting the monkey move freely while remembering that you are not the monkey. You are the space in which it moves. This understanding can transform your relationship with sleeplessness. How many nights have you spent frustrated with being awake, angry at your mind, worried about tomorrow's fatigue? This resistance creates double suffering, being awake and fighting being awake. But what happens when you allow wakefulness to exist? When you stop demanding that sleep arrive on command? Paradoxically, this acceptance often invites sleep to come naturally. When the nervous system senses no struggle, it relaxes. And in that relaxation, sleep emerges on its own. There is a Zen saying in which a master was asked, "What is Buddha?" He replied with an ordinary phrase about everyday life. He was pointing to something simple and profound. Your awakened nature is not found in extraordinary experiences. It is here, in ordinary moments. Right now, your true nature is quietly accepting the weight of your body, the temperature of the air, the sounds in the distance, the thoughts passing through your mind. It is not trying to improve anything. It is not trying to remove anything. This natural awareness is always present, always enough. When you recognize yourself as this awareness rather than as the one who struggles, peace becomes immediate and effortless. A Zen master once said, "Nothing special is required. Eat when hungry, sleep when tired." This ordinariness is the heart of acceptance. Yet the mind complicates what is simple. It analyzes fatigue, judges emotions, resists natural rhythms. Acceptance cuts through this complexity and returns you to what is real. You are tired. Your body wants rest. Nothing more is needed. Sometimes acceptance means letting the day end without replaying it endlessly. The conversations that felt unfinished. The decisions that felt uncertain. The moments that did not unfold as planned. These memories repeat in the mind like quiet echoes. But each replay is a refusal to let the day be complete. Acceptance means allowing the day to close gently. Every moment, success and mistake, clarity and confusion, kindness and imperfection, can be acknowledged and released. Not because it did not matter, but because holding on to it no longer serves you. Tonight, you are invited to rest in the understanding that you are already enough. Not perfect in the sense of flawless, but complete in the sense of whole. The desire to improve can wait until tomorrow. For now, there is only this breath, this body, this quiet moment. Acceptance does not make you passive. It makes you clear. When you stop fighting what is, you see more clearly what truly needs attention and what can be left alone. You begin to act from calm rather than fear, from wisdom rather than urgency, from compassion rather than resistance. As sleep approaches, trust your body's natural intelligence. Your heart knows how to beat without guidance. Your breath knows how to flow without control. Your mind knows how to quiet itself when it is no longer forced. The deepest acceptance is accepting yourself as you are right now. Not the self you think you should be. Not the self you once were. Not the self you hope to become. But this self, here, in this moment. This self that has carried you through every difficulty. This self that deserves rest and gentleness. Let acceptance move through you like warm water, softening what remains tense, loosening what still holds on. You do not need to change to deserve peace. You do not need to solve everything to deserve rest. You are already home. When you stop fighting the moment, something subtle becomes visible. The moment itself is always changing. Your breath shifts from inhale to exhale. Thoughts appear and dissolve. Sounds rise and fade. Even your body is constantly adjusting. Everything flows. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent. Zen reveals that impermanence is not a problem. It is freedom. When you stop trying to freeze what is naturally moving, you discover peace within change itself. Right now, your body demonstrates this truth. Your heartbeat changes with each breath. Your muscles release in waves. Your mind moves like a river around stones. Nothing remains fixed. And this is not chaos. It is the quiet intelligence of life renewing itself. There is a Zen story in which a student asked a master about the deepest truth. The master pointed to an ordinary tree in the garden. The tree was not separate from change. Its leaves grew and fell. Its branches shifted with the seasons. Yet it was fully itself in every moment. You are like this tree. Not a solid, unchanging identity, but a living process of becoming. Resistance arises when you try to freeze yourself in place, clinging to who you were, demanding certainty about who you will become. But your true nature is found in movement, not in stillness alone. This understanding brings great relief as you prepare for sleep. How much energy do you spend trying to remain the same each day, trying to control your moods, your thoughts, your life? It is exhausting because it opposes the natural flow of change. But when you allow yourself to flow, something beautiful happens. Sadness may appear, then gently dissolve. Restlessness may arise, then soften into calm. Busy thoughts may quiet themselves without effort. You do not need to manage this process. You simply allow it. A Zen master once said that we are not separate from time, we are time itself unfolding. Each moment is both new and familiar. You can feel this directly in your body now. Sensations shift from moment to moment. Warmth appears here, coolness there. When you try to control these sensations, tension arises. When you let them flow, peace emerges. There is a story of an old monk nearing death. Seeing his student's sadness, he laughed gently. "I have been letting go since the moment I was born," he said. Each breath was practice for this moment. He understood that endings are not opposites of life, but natural expressions of it. Every day contains small endings. The end of moments, the end of phases, the end of identities. Sleep itself is a gentle lesson in letting go. Each night you release the day. You loosen your grip on thoughts and concerns. You surrender to a process beyond control. But often, we resist this surrender. We carry the day into the night. We replay conversations, plan futures, hold tension in our bodies. This resistance keeps us awake. Tonight, you are invited to do something different. You can allow the day to end. You can allow the mind to loosen its grip. You can allow the body to follow its ancient wisdom. And as you do, slowly, quietly, without effort, sleep will come, not as something forced, but as something remembered. What if you could meet sleep the way monks meet the end of life, not as something to fear, but as a gentle completion, a quiet turning of the page, a natural step in the endless movement of existence. A wandering Zen poet once wrote that when nothing is possessed, nothing can truly be lost. In these simple words lies a profound freedom. When you begin to see that nothing in life can be held forever, not youth, not love, not success, not even suffering, the exhausting effort to control everything slowly loosens its grip. You no longer cling with desperate hands. Instead, you learn to cherish each moment precisely because it cannot last. The blossom is beautiful not despite its brief life, but because of it. If flowers never faded, would they still awaken wonder in the heart? It is their fleeting nature that makes each moment luminous. Your life is like this. Your breath, your feelings, your experiences, each moment appears once and then transforms. You may notice the mind resisting this truth. The mind longs for certainty, for something solid to grasp. Yet this very longing is what creates suffering. Trying to hold life still is like trying to capture water with clenched fists. The tighter you grip, the faster it escapes. But when your hands soften, when they remain open and relaxed, the water can rest there for a while before continuing on its way. You can practice this gentle openness now. If anxiety arises, hold it lightly, knowing it will pass. If calm appears, receive it with gratitude, knowing it too will change. If thoughts move through the mind, let them swim freely, like fish in clear water. Nothing needs to be forced away. Nothing needs to be held tightly. Everything is flowing, and you are the space in which the flowing happens. There is a quiet Zen story about a master who was asked what happens after death. Instead of offering theories or teachings, he simply said, "I do not know." His student was surprised. "But you are awakened," he said. "Surely you must know." The master smiled gently. "Yes," he said, "and that is why I know that I do not know." This not knowing is not ignorance. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that life is always unfolding in ways beyond prediction or control. Your next breath, your next thought, your next experience, all arise freshly from the mystery of this moment. When you stop demanding certainty, when you release the urge to manage what cannot be managed, you begin to rest more deeply in the present. This is especially important as you drift toward sleep. Often the mind stays awake because it is trying to solve tomorrow before it arrives. It wants to calculate, to plan, to secure the unknown. But sleep is an invitation into not knowing, an invitation into trust, an invitation into surrender. The soft overcomes the hard. Water shapes stone not by force, but by persistence and gentleness. Your breath shapes your body not by pushing, but by rhythm. When you move with change rather than against it, you become like water, yet powerful, yielding yet unstoppable. You can feel this truth in your own life. Think of a time when you passed through difficulty, loss, illness, heartbreak, failure. In those moments, it may have felt endless. Yet here you are. You did not survive by force. You survived by continuing to breathe, to live, to move with what was happening. That same flowing is available to you now. The worries you carry, the pressures you feel, the uncertainties that trouble your mind, they are also temporary. They do not need to be solved tonight. They do not need to be held in your body as you rest. Like clouds in the sky, they can be seen, acknowledged, and allowed to pass. A Zen teacher once spoke of the awareness that is never born and never dies. The silent space in which all experiences appear and disappear. This awareness does not change even as everything within it changes. It is like a screen on which many films are projected. The screen is untouched by tragedy or joy. It simply allows each story to appear. You can sense this awareness in yourself right now. Even as your breath moves, your body shifts, your thoughts rise and fall, something in you remains still, open, and present. When you rest in this awareness rather than in the changing images, you discover a peace that does not depend on circumstances staying the same. You begin to recognize yourself not as the waves, but as the ocean. Not as the thoughts, but as the space in which thoughts arise. Not as the emotions, but as the quiet presence that holds them. This realization does not require years of practice. It appears in any moment you stop trying to control the flow and instead remember who you truly are. Feel this spaciousness now. You are not only the sensations in your body. You are the awareness that knows them. You are not only the thoughts in your mind. You are the silence in which they appear and dissolve. You are not only the emotions that move through your heart. You are the peace that remains beneath all movement. This understanding does not separate you from life. It allows you to participate more fully. You can love deeply without trying to freeze love in time. You can act wholeheartedly without clinging to outcomes. You can rest without resisting the natural rhythm of activity and stillness. The seasons teach this wisdom effortlessly. Spring does not resist winter. Summer does not fear autumn. Autumn does not cling to its leaves. Winter does not reject the coming light. Each season expresses itself fully, then quietly transforms. You are part of this same rhythm. There are seasons of growth and seasons of rest. Seasons of clarity and seasons of confusion. Seasons of movement and seasons of stillness. Each phase carries its own meaning. Each phase is complete in its own way. As you approach the nightly season of sleep, allow yourself to trust this rhythm. Your body knows how to move from waking to resting. You do not need to force the transition. You can allow yourself to be carried, like a leaf drifting on a quiet current. This trust in natural unfolding is the deepest wisdom of impermanence. It is not only that everything changes, it is that you are the changing itself. And in this recognition, resistance gently dissolves. Not because you push it away, but because there is no longer anyone who needs to resist. There is only flowing and the quiet peace that flows with it. As you rest in this understanding, something tender begins to awaken. When you stop fighting life, you discover that your natural response is not hardness, but softness. Not aggression, but gentleness. Not resistance, but compassion. Compassion does not need to be manufactured. It emerges naturally when inner barriers fall away. Like a spring appearing when stones are removed, compassion flows when struggle ends. This compassion transforms everything: how you meet your own difficulties, how you respond to others, how you move through a world that often feels demanding. Right now, as your breath slows, notice if there are places where you are still harsh with yourself. Perhaps you judge your restless mind. Perhaps you criticize your inability to relax. Perhaps you carry quiet guilt or worry. These voices are forms of inner resistance. What would it feel like to speak to yourself with the same kindness you would offer someone you love? What would it feel like to treat your mind as a tired guest rather than an enemy? A Zen master once asked a student, "When a guest in your home is troubled, do you shout at them?" The student shook his head. "I would offer tea and comfort," he said. The master smiled. Then why do you not treat your own mind the same way? Your thoughts and feelings are guests in the house of awareness. Some are gentle, some are difficult, but the house itself remains spacious and welcoming. You do not need to like every visitor. You only need to stop fighting them. You can hold yourself gently in the midst of whatever arises, the way a loving presence holds a frightened child. Feel this gentle holding now. Whatever you feel, peace or restlessness, clarity or confusion, can be embraced without judgment. Your breath continues. Your heart continues. Something in you remains steady, caring, and awake. And as you rest in this steady presence, sleep begins to approach quietly, not as something forced, but as something remembered. When you allow each movement to arise quietly from stillness, beauty no longer needs to be forced. It appears by itself, like a reflection on calm water. This is the essence of effortless action. Not striving for results, not tightening around outcomes, but giving yourself completely to the unfolding moment. When resistance dissolves, something natural awakens within you. You begin to respond to life with quiet clarity rather than anxious effort. You no longer need to calculate every choice or struggle through every difficulty. Wisdom emerges on its own when the mind stops arguing with reality. Feel this gentle wisdom now as sleep approaches. You do not need to understand how sleep happens. Your body already knows the way. You do not need to solve tomorrow before resting. Tomorrow will arrive in its own time, carrying its own answers. You do not need to organize every memory of today or predict every possibility of the future. You can simply remain here, in the soft presence of this moment, as everything begins to slow. To live without resistance is to trust the deeper intelligence of life. It is to sense that you are not required to control every detail of existence. The same unseen wisdom that heals your wounds and grows your hair is also shaping the patterns of your life in ways beyond thought. Trusting this does not make you passive. It makes you receptive, cooperative, awake. You still choose, still act, still care. But you move with life rather than against it. You become like water, gentle, yielding, patient, able to shape stone without force, able to travel far without strain. Your strength no longer comes from struggle, but from alignment with what naturally wants to emerge. A Zen master once spoke of the person of no rank. The self that exists before all titles, before all stories, before all expectations. This self does not depend on praise or fear loss. It is not shaken by change because it recognizes itself as the open awareness in which change happens. It lives without resistance because it knows it is not separate from the flow of life. You can sense this self right now. Beneath your thoughts, beneath your worries, beneath your hopes and doubts. Under every narrative about who you are and who you should become, there is something simple, quiet, and untouched. Something that has never been harmed by circumstances. Something that is completely at ease in its own being. As you rest in this recognition, you may notice that the integration you sought was never distant. It has been happening all along. Each time you chose presence instead of rumination, each time you softened instead of tightening, each time you responded with kindness rather than fear. In those moments, you were already free. This freedom is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It appears in ordinary gestures, in the way you feel warm water on your face in the morning, in the way you listen without preparing a reply, in the way you allow sadness to exist without condemning it. in the way you accept change without demanding permanence. The Zen tradition speaks of the unborn mind, an awareness that was never created and can never be destroyed. This awareness is your true nature. It does not resist anything because nothing threatens it. It does not cling because it is not separate from experience. It does not struggle because it is life itself, expressing through countless forms. Tonight, as consciousness gradually loosens its grip on thought and identity, you are practicing the same gentle return. You are releasing the weight of the day, the tension of roles, the urgency of plans. You are returning to the awareness that has always been your home. And in this return, something becomes clear. You were never broken, never incomplete, never truly at war with life. Peace was not something to earn. It was something to remember. Rest now in this remembering. Let the night hold you with the same tenderness you are learning to offer yourself. Let sleep arrive like a quiet guest, uninvited yet welcome. There is nothing to resist, not even resistance itself. You can allow this moment to be exactly as it is. In this allowing, freedom reveals itself. Not in the future, not in some perfected state, but here. In this breath, in this heartbeat, in this simple act of coming home. The path of non-resistance is not a destination you reach once and forever. It is a way of walking you return to again and again. A way of breathing you remember with each breath. A way of being that renews itself with every moment. Each moment of softness is complete in itself. Each choice to open rather than close is already awakening. There is nowhere else to go. Nothing else to become. Nothing else to achieve. There is only this breath, this pulse of life, this quiet healing rest in what has always been true. You are life itself, moving without strain, flowing without conflict, existing without end. As you settle deeper into this ease, something subtle begins to appear. Between thoughts, between words, between impulses to analyze or act, there is a quiet presence without name or form. The Zen masters called this emptiness. Not the emptiness of absence, but the emptiness of infinite openness. This emptiness is not void. It is spaciousness. It is the fullness that appears when the mind stops crowding every moment with meaning. It is what remains when commentary fades. Right now, as your body relaxes, you can sense this spaciousness widening around your thoughts. Like clouds parting to reveal the sky that was always there, awareness begins to recognize its own vastness. A student once asked a great master for the ultimate teaching. The master remained silent. The student waited, uneasy. Finally, he asked again. The master smiled and said that he had been teaching all along, but the student had been too busy waiting for words to hear the silent message. The deepest wisdom does not arrive as explanation. It lives in the spaces between thoughts, in the stillness between breaths, in the quiet that exists right now. You do not need to understand emptiness. You can simply rest within it. Feel the space between one breath and the next, between one thought and whatever might come after. In these pauses, something more real than thought reveals itself. This is your natural state. Not empty in the sense of lacking, but empty of struggle, empty of resistance, empty of the need to become something else. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we try to fill this openness with temporary things. We fill it with plans, worries, memories, expectations. We crowd every moment with mental noise and forget the peace beneath it. But emptiness does not need to be filled. It only needs to be recognized. A Zen master once answered a profound question with a single word meaning no. Students spent years trying to understand it, yet the teaching was not in the word itself. It was in the silence the word pointed toward. You do not need to solve this silence. You can simply rest in not knowing. Not knowing is not ignorance. It is wisdom. It is the understanding that peace is not something to achieve, but something to allow. As your thoughts slow, you may notice longer spaces between them. The inner voice softens. The need to comment fades. This is not a problem. It is your awareness returning to its natural rhythm. Zen speaks of one mind. A mind before division, before observer and observed, before resistance and what is resisted. Two monks once argued about whether a flag or the wind was moving. Their teacher said quietly that it was their minds that were moving. You can step out of this movement at any moment, not by stopping thoughts, but by noticing the stillness that holds them. You are not the thoughts, not the emotions, not the sensations. You are the space in which they appear. This space is never harmed by what passes through it. The sky is not damaged by storms. Awareness is not damaged by anxious thoughts. The self before all roles, all stories, all identities is already present. You do not need to become it. You only need to stop trying to be something else. As you rest in this empty presence, a deep relaxation may arise. Not only in the body, but in the sense of self itself. The relief of not having to maintain an image. The peace of not having to defend an identity. Personality still exists. Choices still happen. But they arise with less fear, less tension, less attachment. The Zen tradition speaks of sitting with no goal, no technique, no achievement, just being. You can practice this now, not trying to sleep, not trying to stay awake, not trying to understand, simply resting in awareness. This is the deepest form of non-resistance. Not even resisting your own spiritual seeking. Ordinary mind reveals itself. The awareness that sees, hears, feels without agenda. Not special, not dramatic, simply present. When asked what Buddha is, a master once answered with something ordinary. He was pointing to the truth that enlightenment is not hidden in extraordinary experiences. It is present in the simplest moments. Feel this constancy beneath everything. Beneath thoughts, beneath sensations, beneath emotions. There is something unmoving, untroubled, quietly present. This is your refuge, not because you escape to it, but because you have never left it. The unborn awareness is what you are beneath all history and memory. It is what is listening right now, what is aware of awareness. As your body releases into rest, let this recognition sink deeper than thought. You do not need to understand emptiness. You can allow yourself to be held by it. Let worry soften. Let plans dissolve. Let identity loosen. There is nothing to resist. There is no solid self to fight. There is only open awareness in which everything appears and disappears. The ancient teaching says that form and emptiness are not separate. Everything you experience is already this awareness. When you see this, seeking ends naturally. There is nothing to attain because you are already what you were searching for. Rest in this completion. Let the night sky teach you the emptiness that holds stars. Let silence teach you the awareness that hears sound. Let your breath teach you the space that allows movement without being limited by it. You are this space. You are this silence. You are this openness full of possibility. When you stop looking for yourself in thoughts, you find yourself in awareness. When you stop looking in experiences, you find yourself in experiencing itself. Resistance dissolves because there is nothing separate to resist. There is only flowing, only awareness, only the quiet dance of existence knowing itself. Sleep invites you into this truth every night, not as loss but as return. Tonight, as consciousness gently fades, you are not losing anything real. You are returning to what you have always been. And in that return, something simple becomes clear. You were never lost. Beneath emptiness, beneath silence, beneath seeking, there is stillness. Not the stillness of something stopped, but the stillness that was never moving. This is home. You are not going anywhere. You are recognizing where you have always been. Like a traveler who realizes the destination was always within him, you discover that the peace you sought was never elsewhere. Every teaching, every story, every insight was not adding something to you. It was revealing what was already complete. The stillness you feel now is not new. It has always been here. Night itself is a teacher of stillness. Doing dissolves into being. Effort melts into rest. Your body understands this rhythm. Your breath knows how to let go. The same intelligence that moves oceans and seasons is moving through you now, guiding you toward rest. Your true nature is stillness itself. Not something you possess, but what you are. Like water that is always wet, you are always awareness, whether the mind is busy or quiet. There is a quiet wisdom in simply being what you are. Nothing to improve, nothing to prove. As you rest, let yourself dissolve gently into this truth. You do not need to become anything else. You are already enough. And in this quiet recognition, sleep can arrive like a soft wave, carrying you deeper into the stillness that has always been your home. This is not indifference, and it is not escape. It is a deeper form of intelligence, a quiet recognition that what you have been searching for has never been separate from you. Your breath is revealing this truth in the simplest way. Each inhale rises gently from stillness. Each exhale returns softly into stillness. Between them, there is a pause. Not a gap that needs to be filled, but a completeness that asks for nothing. In that pause, your true nature is not hidden or distant. It is quietly present, closer than thought, nearer than effort. A Zen master once said that searching for awakening is like searching for an animal while already riding on its back. You strain to find what is already carrying you. You look outward for what is already looking through your eyes. Right now, as you listen, what is it that hears? As your body rests on the bed, what is it that knows the sensation of resting? This knowing is not something you own. It is what you are. It has been with you through every season of your life. It was there in moments of childhood wonder and adult uncertainty. It witnessed your joys and your losses with the same quiet clarity. It observed your victories and your failures without changing its nature. This witnessing presence is the stillness that has never been disturbed by the storms of experience. Everything else moves, changes, and transforms. But this awareness remains. Look at the night sky. Darkness is not the absence of light. It is the vast space that allows light to appear. Stars do not struggle against the night. They shine because they rest within it. In the same way, You do not need to fight uncertainty or fear the unknown. You can allow your awareness to glow gently within the mystery of existence. You can be at ease inside what you do not fully understand. There was once a master who rarely gave formal teachings. Students gathered around him day after day, hoping for profound words. But he only swept the courtyard, tended the garden, prepared simple meals. After many years, one student finally asked, "Master, when will you teach us?" The master paused, leaned on his broom, and replied softly, "What do you think I have been doing? Every movement from stillness is teaching. Every return to stillness is learning. You have been listening for words while the whole of life has been speaking." He understood that stillness is not separate from activity. True stillness is not the opposite of movement. It is the awareness that remains unchanged whether life is busy or quiet, turbulent or calm. This is the stillness you are touching now. Not the stillness of absence, but the living stillness of consciousness itself. As you relax further, you may notice that thoughts appear less frequently. The inner commentary softens. The urge to solve everything begins to fade. This is not losing awareness. It is awareness returning to its natural home. Like a river widening as it approaches the ocean, your mind is slowly remembering its source. In Zen, there is a practice called simply sitting. Not sitting to achieve anything, but sitting as the expression of what already is. In the same way, you are not lying down to force sleep. You are resting as the natural expression of your being. Sleep may come, or it may arrive later. But this resting in aware stillness is already complete. The Buddha spoke of a peace that is not found after death, but available here and now. It appears when resistance ends, when you stop trying to become someone else, when you release the constant effort to fix, improve, and control your experience. In that moment, peace is no longer extraordinary. It becomes ordinary. There is a story of a Zen master near the end of his life. His students gathered around him, expecting a final teaching. He smiled and said quietly, "I have been dying my whole life, one breath at a time. This is simply another breath." Then he rested, without drama, without fear. Every night, you practice this same gentle letting go. The identity of the day fades. Concerns loosen their grip. Urgency dissolves into quietness. Sleep teaches you that you can release everything you think you are and still be whole. In fact, when you let go, you discover a peace that was never threatened by the events of the day. This peace does not belong to you like an object. Rather, you belong to it. Like a wave rising from the ocean and returning to it, your individual awareness emerges from stillness and returns each night. The ocean is never diminished by the wave. It is simply expressing itself. A Zen teacher spoke of the true self beyond all titles and identities. The self that exists before labels like teacher, parent, worker, seeker. This self leaves no trace and needs no explanation. It is what you are in deep sleep, when every role disappears. Not the being of something specific, but being itself. You can sense this pure being now, not as something special to grasp, but as the simple fact of existing before stories arise. In this bare awareness, nothing is missing and nothing is extra. There is only the quiet simplicity of being aware. Ancient teachings described this as existence, awareness, and quiet joy. Not three separate things, but one reality experienced in different ways. You exist. You know that you exist. And within this knowing, there is a subtle contentment. Not happiness about something in particular, not excitement or pleasure, but the gentle satisfaction of awareness resting in itself. Feel this quiet contentment now, like the feeling of returning home after a long journey, like the relief of remembering something you never truly lost. As your body continues to soften, let this recognition deepen beyond thought. These words are not ideas to memorize. They are invitations to rest in what you are beyond memory and understanding. There is a story of a young monk who approached his teacher with one final question. I have studied the teachings, practiced the methods, understood the principles, he said. What remains? The teacher looked at him with gentle eyes and asked, "Who is asking?" In that moment, the question dissolved, and the questioner dissolved with it. Only stillness remained. This is your invitation now. Not to find more answers, but to allow questions to fade into quiet awareness. Not to achieve understanding, but to rest in what understanding points toward. The night is holding you with ancient tenderness. Darkness is not emptiness. It is the womb from which all light emerges and to which all light returns. You are part of this rhythm. Emergence and return. Movement and rest. Knowing and not knowing. Let yourself be carried by this rhythm. Let your breath align with the slow pulse of the earth. Let your heartbeat resonate with the deeper rhythm that guides the stars. You are not separate from this unfolding. You are life recognizing itself through awareness. And in this recognition, resistance dissolves naturally. Not through effort, but through clarity. You see that there was never anything to fight. There was never anyone separate from life to resist it. There was only life expressing itself. Awareness knowing itself. Stillness appearing as movement. Rest now in this ocean of quietness. Let thoughts settle like particles in calm water. There is nothing to grasp and nothing to reject. No identity to defend and no experience to escape. Sleep arrives not as loss, but as depth. Awareness so complete it needs no object. So full it requires no content. So peaceful it welcomes even silence. You are not losing anything as you drift toward sleep. You are returning to what you have always been. The stillness receives you gently, as it has always received every being who stops struggling. In this receiving, something simple becomes clear. You were never broken, never lost, never separate from the peace you sought. You are always home in stillness, always held by quiet compassion, always complete in this moment. Let the night remind you that you are not a wave trying to reach the ocean. You are the ocean briefly dreaming itself as a wave. Now, remembering what was never truly forgotten. In this remembering, seeking ends. Not because you found something new, but because you realized nothing was missing. And as the mind grows quieter, let us turn gently toward a timeless story. A poor man walked slowly through a dense forest. His shoulders were heavy with worry. Unpaid debts, strained relationships, abandoned dreams weighed on every step. Sunlight filtered softly through the branches above him, but he did not notice. His mind was crowded with thoughts, each one leading to another burden. Tired of walking and thinking, he leaned against what seemed like an ordinary tree. Its trunk felt solid and calm against his back. As he caught his breath, he felt a sudden thirst. "I wish I had something to drink," he whispered. In his hand appeared a cup of clear, cool water. He stared at it in disbelief. Then, Cautiously he drank. The water was fresh and soothing. Moments later, hunger arose. Without thinking, he wished for food. Before him appeared a simple meal, warm and nourishing. He ate slowly, astonished. "My wishes are coming true," he murmured. Encouraged, he wished for a home. In the meadow nearby, a beautiful house appeared. Light filled its rooms. Gardens bloomed around it. He smiled in wonder. "If I have a home," he thought, "I will need help." At once, kind people appeared, ready to serve. Then he wished for companionship. A gentle woman appeared beside him, her presence warm and calm. But suddenly, doubt arose. "This cannot be real," he said. "Things like this do not happen to someone like me." As he spoke, everything faded. The woman vanished. The house dissolved. The servants disappeared. He stood once again beside the ordinary tree, alone with his old worries. Shaking his head, he walked away, returning to familiar patterns of doubt. The Buddha taught that our world is shaped by our mind. What we believe becomes the landscape we walk through. Often, we trust our limitations more than our possibilities. We become so accustomed to struggle that ease feels unreal. How often do we dismiss unexpected kindness, beauty, or opportunity? How often do we walk away from blessings because they seem too good to be true? The wishing tree is a symbol of reality responding to belief. When we meet life with openness, possibilities appear. When we meet it with doubt, they fade from view. And as you rest now, free from effort, free from struggle, you may sense something gentle within you. A quiet knowing that abundance, peace, and clarity are not distant. They are already present, waiting to be recognized. You do not need to chase them. You only need to rest. And in this rest, the forest of thoughts grows quiet. The wishing tree stands silently beside you. The night breathes with you. And slowly, naturally, without effort, you drift deeper into stillness. The man in the story stood before limitless possibilities, yet his own mind told him he was not meant to receive them. His habits of doubt became stronger than what his eyes could see and his hands could touch. This is the quiet sorrow of self-distrust. It persuades us to abandon the very doors that have already opened for us. A Zen teacher once said that each person is already whole, yet always unfolding. Within these words lives a gentle paradox. We are complete in our essence, and at the same time, life continues to invite us to grow. The man beneath the tree could not hold both truths at once. He could not feel worthy of goodness while also believing that change was possible. So he chose what felt familiar, even though it was painful. In everyday life, we encounter countless wishing trees without noticing them. A stranger offers kindness, and we suspect hidden motives. A chance opportunity appears, and we assume we are not ready. A relationship begins to feel warm and genuine, and we quietly withdraw before it can deepen. Again and again, we choose certainty in limitation over uncertainty in possibility. Each time, we turn away from our own miracle. The Buddha spoke of light that must be discovered within. There is a kind of questioning that awakens wisdom, and there is a kind of doubt that slowly erodes the heart. Wise doubt opens space for truth. Destructive doubt closes the door before truth can enter. Zen practice invites us to observe these moments gently. To notice when we push away joy, love, or abundance simply because they do not fit the story we have learned to tell about ourselves. Can we remain open to the idea that we might be more capable, more deserving, more lovable than we once believed? Tonight, as the day fades, you might recall small moments when you stepped away from your own wishing tree. Perhaps you dismissed a compliment. Perhaps you avoided an opportunity. Perhaps you shortened a moment of happiness because it felt fragile. What would it mean to trust that you are worthy of receiving life's gifts? The Buddha taught that one flame can light thousands of candles without losing its own brightness. Joy does not diminish when it is shared. The magic of the wishing tree is not weakened by granting wishes. It becomes complete through them, and your ability to receive does not shrink when you accept goodness. It expands. There is another story from the quiet halls of Zen tradition. A young student grew restless with his teacher's calm answers. He believed the old master spoke in riddles only to appear wise. Determined to expose him, the student devised a test. One morning, he caught a small bird in the garden. Its body trembled softly in his hands, its heartbeat rapid and delicate. He hid it behind his back and approached the teacher, who was sitting peacefully in the morning light. "Master," the student said, trying to conceal his excitement, "I have a question that will test your wisdom." The teacher looked up with gentle eyes and nodded. The student stepped forward. "In my hands I hold a bird. Tell me, is it alive or dead?" He felt clever, certain of his victory. If the master said the bird was alive, he would quietly end its life and reveal the answer. If the master said it was dead, he would release it into the air. Either way, he believed he would prove the teacher wrong. The master remained silent for a moment. He did not try to see the bird or uncover the trick. His gaze seemed to rest beyond the student, as if looking into something deeper. Then he smiled gently and said, "The answer is in your hands." The student froze. In a single sentence, his trap dissolved. He looked down at his palms and felt the fragile life resting there. In that instant, he understood something he had never seen before. The bird's fate had never depended on the teacher's wisdom. It had always depended on his own choice. Slowly, he opened his hands. The bird paused for a moment, then lifted itself into the sky and disappeared among the trees. The Buddha taught that our world is shaped by the mind. Every thought, every intention, every decision creates the landscape of our experience. Often, we search outside ourselves for answers that can only arise within. We seek authorities, teachers, and systems to tell us what to do. But the deepest wisdom cannot be handed from one person to another. It must be recognized in the quiet space of our own awareness. The student believed he was testing the teacher, yet he was encountering his own power. Every moment of life places something in our hands. Compassion or cruelty, truth or illusion, creation or destruction. Look gently at your own life. How often do you wait for someone else to decide what is right for you? How often do you doubt your ability to choose wisely? The bird in the student's hands is a symbol of the power you carry each day. In relationships, in work, in inner growth, you constantly hold something precious. The outcome does not depend entirely on circumstances. It depends on how you respond. True teachers do not give final answers. They point you back to your own awareness. They remind you of the choices you are already making and the strength you already possess. Zen wisdom tells us that even when we feel trapped, we are still choosing. Consciousness itself is choice. And choice is responsibility. Tonight, as you rest, you might sense this truth quietly. Not as pressure, but as dignity. Not as burden, but as freedom. The Buddha said that no one can walk the path for us. Each step must be taken by our own feet. The bird flies free not because of the teacher's words, but because of the student's decision. And in recognizing our own capacity to choose, we discover that the answer has always been resting in our hands. Now, another story unfolds, carried softly by the night. A wealthy merchant had accumulated great fortune through years of careful trade and calculated risk. His family owned lands, controlled routes of commerce, and enjoyed respect throughout the region. As he grew older, his thoughts turned toward the future. He wondered how to ensure that his family's prosperity would continue long after he was gone. Hearing of a Zen master whose wisdom was said to reach beyond ordinary understanding, he decided to seek his help. Approaching the master with elegant robes and precious ornaments, he bowed deeply. "Master," he said, "I wish to commission something profound. Write words that will bring prosperity and happiness to my family for generations. I will spare no expense. Give me the most powerful blessing you can." The master listened quietly. After a moment, he asked for a large sheet of paper and prepared his brush with calm precision. The merchant watched with eager anticipation. He imagined grand calligraphy, secret teachings, or words that would secure endless wealth. But when the master finished, only a few simple words remained on the paper. "Father dies. Son dies. Grandson dies." The merchant felt anger rise within him. His face flushed with disbelief. "This is not what I asked for," he protested. "I wanted words of prosperity, not messages of death." The master looked at him with gentle eyes. "Look more deeply," he said softly. "If your son were to die before you, your family would suffer unbearable grief. If your grandson were to die before his father, sorrow would deepen even further. But if each generation lives fully and passes away in its natural time, this is harmony. This is the least suffering. This is true prosperity." The merchant began to understand. The Buddha taught that impermanence is the nature of all things. Nothing remains unchanged. No wealth, no body, no relationship escapes the rhythm of arising and fading. Much of our suffering comes from resisting this truth. We try to freeze life, to preserve what must eventually transform. The merchant believed prosperity meant accumulation. The master revealed a deeper meaning. True prosperity is not endless possession, but harmony with the natural flow of life. When we see death not as failure, but as completion, our relationship with life becomes softer. The greatest blessing is not the avoidance of change, but the grace to meet change with understanding. In modern life, we often measure success by what we leave behind. Money, property, achievements. Yet how rarely do we measure the quiet wisdom passed through generations? The ability to accept life's rhythms with courage and peace. The Buddha reminded us that all conditioned things are impermanent. We strive, we build, we create, but ultimate peace arises not from control, but from acceptance. Tonight, as you reflect on those you love, you might ask gently, what do you truly wish for them? Endless protection from change? Or the wisdom to meet change with calm hearts? The master's words were not dark. They were compassionate. They pointed to the simplest form of happiness, each generation living fully, then letting go in its time. No wealth can replace this quiet harmony. And so the merchant learned that true prosperity is not found in resisting the cycle of life and death, but in moving gracefully within it. In the distant capital city, where markets buzzed and scholars debated beneath lantern light, Another Zen master prepared to leave a great temple after a season of teaching. Known for his ability to awaken students with simple words, he traveled lightly, carrying only what he needed. As he folded his belongings, a well-dressed man approached with respectful urgency. "Venerable Master," he said, bowing deeply, "I come with a request from a noble patron who longs to meet you. He is detained today, but wishes to speak with you tomorrow. Would you remain one more day?" The master paused. Though his path called him onward, he felt the sincerity within the request. "I will stay," he replied softly. He unpacked his bundle and returned to quiet meditation, unaware that the next day would reveal another lesson hidden within ordinary events. And as the night deepens around you, these stories continue to flow gently like a slow river. Your breath becomes softer. Your body becomes lighter. Your thoughts drift like clouds dissolving into the sky. Somewhere within, stillness waits patiently. And without effort, without urgency, you move closer to it. The next morning unfolded quietly beneath a pale sky, while temple bells drifted through the air like soft waves calling the world into stillness. Bankai waited in the simple room prepared for the meeting, his posture relaxed, his presence calm. Time passed gently, like breath moving in and out. When footsteps finally approached, it was not the Baron who entered. Instead, the same refined gentleman appeared once more, his expression touched with unease. He bowed deeply before speaking. "Master," he said softly, "I bring unfortunate news. The Baron has been summoned by urgent matters that could not be postponed. Affairs of great importance required his immediate attention. Yet his wish to learn from you has not faded. He has asked me to stand in his place, to receive your teaching and carry your words back to him faithfully." The man paused, hoping his request might be accepted. "The Baron's question concerns the nature of mind itself," he continued. "He wishes to know what consciousness truly is and how one might realize it directly. If you would share your insight, I promise to convey every word exactly as you speak." Bankai listened with quiet attentiveness. When the gentleman finished, the master remained silent for a while, as though he were considering not only the question, but the entire situation, the absent seeker, the devoted messenger, and the subtle impossibility hidden within the request. At last he spoke gently. "The matter of Zen," he said, "is difficult to convey even when teacher and student sit face to face. To transmit it through a messenger, no matter how sincere, is even more difficult, indeed, impossible." Having spoken, the master said nothing more. He simply sat in stillness, embodying the truth his words had touched. The gentleman waited, expecting further explanation, but none came. After a moment, he bowed respectfully and withdrew, carrying not answers, but silence. The Buddha once said, "Be a lamp unto yourself." In Bankai's quiet refusal, this teaching revealed its depth. Awakening cannot be delivered like a message, because it is not information. It is transformation. We often approach spiritual wisdom as though it were knowledge to be collected, stored, and transmitted. We imagine that understanding can be borrowed, explained, or summarized. Yet Zen teaches something far simpler and far more intimate. Awakening is not a concept to grasp. It is a reality to be experienced. Like thirst quenched by water, it cannot be fully described. It must be tasted. The Baron's question about consciousness reflects a familiar desire. We want to understand awareness as an object. We want to hold it with thought, define it with language, and possess it with concepts. But consciousness cannot be turned into an object, because it is the very subject that perceives. Trying to observe awareness is like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. The seeing itself is what you are trying to see. How often in daily life do we approach spirituality as something to study rather than something to live? We read about meditation instead of sitting quietly. We analyze enlightenment instead of noticing our present experience. We seek answers about the mind instead of observing the mind directly. Dogen once taught that to study the Buddha way is to study the self, and to study the self is to forget the self. Within this paradox lies the heart of practice. The self that wants to understand spirituality intellectually is the very illusion that must be seen through. And this seeing does not arise through accumulation of knowledge, but through gentle awareness of what is happening right now. The messenger in the story represents our own tendency to approach awakening indirectly. We want to remain at a safe distance, observing consciousness as if it were something separate from us. Yet awareness is not something we possess. It is what we are. Bankai's silence was itself a teaching. In Zen, silence often reveals what words cannot. The space between thoughts, the pause between breaths, the quiet awareness in which all experiences arise. These cannot be captured by language, but they can be recognized when we stop trying to grasp them. This does not mean teachers are unnecessary. It means true teachers point us back to our own experience. They do not hand us enlightenment. They help us notice what has always been present. Tonight, as you listen to these words, you are already aware. You are aware of your breath, aware of your body resting, aware of the gentle flow of sensations and thoughts. Can you sense this awareness directly without turning it into an idea? Can you simply rest in it without trying to explain it? The Buddha reminded us that the path cannot be walked by proxy. No one can breathe for you. No one can see for you. No one can awaken in your place. And yet, nothing is required beyond what is already here. As this gentle exploration draws closer to silence, you might notice that the ease you feel was never something you had to create. It was always waiting beneath the surface of effort and tension. The calm you touch tonight does not belong to these teachings alone. It lives quietly within your own awareness, ready to welcome you whenever you remember to look. The Buddha taught that we lose only what we cling to. Peace does not arise from forcing life to obey our wishes, but from loosening our grip on how we think things should be. When resistance softens, peace flows naturally. Every story we have shared points toward the same simple truth. Suffering arises not from life itself, but from fighting life. Freedom is not found through control, but through understanding. Rest emerges when striving finally dissolves. As you prepare for sleep, feel how your breath moves more gently now. How your body settles without effort. How your heart no longer needs to defend or demand anything. Wisdom is not hidden in complexity. It lives in the simple recognition that you do not need to be at war with your own experience. Tonight, you have touched that recognition. You have felt the relief that comes when struggle ends and flowing begins. When you return to the rhythms of daily life, carry with you not just the stories, but the quiet knowing they awakened. Peace is always possible. Resistance is always optional. Rest is always available when you stop pushing it away. May this understanding remain close to you, offering comfort in moments of difficulty and deepening the joy hidden in ordinary moments. Now, let the night hold you gently. Let your breath become slower. Let your thoughts soften and fade. Sleep well. And thank you for walking this quiet path with Silent Monk.